The basketball superstar Caitlin Clark, who has been dominating the floor with ease and allowing the game to flow to her organically, thanked fans for their constant support in a passionate statement. Everyone is wondering who will be the next to sign her because of her hard, sharp shots, such as the ones to her left. Why wouldn't they be? Foreign suitors, particularly those from Europe, are swarming about like wolves for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Although Barcelona is best known for football, their women's basketball program has been expanding, and they are in serious talks to recruit Clark. According to reports, Clark is planning to make a big move because the WNBA's treatment has encouraged her to look for opportunities overseas. European powerhouses are leading the race to bring her talent overseas, and no one is more eager than Barcelona basket fanatics. Signing Clark would not only improve their roster, it would elevate the entire league. But why Barcelona? Simply put, the club has the ideal mix of top-notch facilities, fan support, and a potent marketing machine ready to take Clark's brand worldwide. Rumor has it that the club is putting together a lucrative package that includes endorsements and incentives to ensure that Caitlin Clark leads the charge for their women's team. Early projections suggest that her arrival could boost ticket sales by 50%, and that's just the beginning. Meanwhile, Hungary's SOP and Basket is quietly making its case, and although they may not have the same level of global recognition as Barcelona, they dominate the EuroLeague with substantial financial backing, so the front is willing to do whatever it takes to get Clark to sign. It's not just about winning games, it's about expanding the league's reach. With plans for stadium extensions and higher retail sales, community excitement is at an all-time high. Turkey Funner predicts that the jersey alone will sell out in a few hours if Clark signs. Bach is also mentioned, which is known for its wealth and fierce rivalry. Spirit is reportedly offering Clark a contract worth $3 million a season, not including bonuses. According to reports, Turkish Airlines is considering a sponsorship agreement with Clark if she contracts with them. The Turkish Women's Basketball Federation sees Clark as the key to bringing Turkish women's basketball to the international arena. Sales of Bach tickets may rise by 60%, with broadcast partnerships following closely behind. Furthermore, sports are currently being heavily invested in throughout the Middle East, which 10 years ago would have appeared like an improbable area for women's basketball to play. Kate and Clark are currently the focus of new competitors Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Sources claim that Middle Eastern teams are prepared to pay her an astounding $10 million a season for 8 years, which is far more than her Nike contract. But more than money, Clark sees this as a chance to make history with countries in the region that aspire to host large international athletic events. In addition to the financial advantages, Clark has the chance to manage a sports organization and might play a significant role in establishing the Middle East as a reputable basketball hotspot. The revolution will bring women's basketball to new audiences and cultures wherever Clark chooses to go, even if it's Barcelona. Whether in Spain, Turkey, or the Middle East, her presence on a squad is expected to have an impact on the world. Social media interaction will skyrocket, item sales will rise, and the number of viewers will triple as fans go to see her perform. In addition to being a player, Clark is a movement.
What does bother me is some of the people I deeply respect. Their basketball credentials, their basketball history, their commitment to basketball and women's basketball, I think have really not covered themselves in glory with some of this commentary. And I'm going to read you a quote, Colin, if I may, from, again, this person might know more about about women's basketball than any person who's ever lived, and that's Gino Auriemma. Gino Auriemma was on with my pal Dan Patrick a couple months ago when the Fever were struggling. And this was the quote: "This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality in the league, and she's a rookie. This rookie class isn't even one of the best classes in the last 10 years. She's just not built for the physicality of this league. She's not quick enough to get away from the physicality." End quote. Gino, just say you're a UConn guy and you thought this was going to be Paige and instead it's Caitlin.
When NBC Sports approached, they didn't ask for approval. They did not wait for alignment. They made a decision. There was no need for an explanation as millions of people watched the NBA telecast during primetime. The result was immediate. At the debut, It didn't feel like a cameo. It seemed like a takeover. Confident analysis, composed speech, lack of anxiety, and lack of planned talking points. In just a few hours, viewers were aware, the most unsettling metric surfaced, videos went viral, and engagement rose. People weren't just watching, they were staying. In the meantime, something else happened. Something no one was brave enough to say out loud. Unfollows.
Caitlyn in that class by not being prepared for it, and the fact that so many journalists across the country, institutions failed to cover this league. Like, there's just so many institutionalized failings that now the league is attempting to hurdle over.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing, just as far as the product on the floor? Because a lot of people talk about physicality. A lot of people talk about the referees. I actually did a deep dive in one of my episodes talking about like who the referees are calling to, essentially, and where the W gets their referees. But as far as the product, because at the end of the day, fans are not going to stick around if it's not a good product, period.
Right.
Like, they have to be there for the basketball, and I think
Subsidiary businesses connected to league content saw declines, not in small numbers or scattered in waves, and a concept that had promised a different future started to see the difference in real time. The games were televised. Although fewer people showed up than expected, the level of effort was nonetheless high. Insiders said the comparison was harsh. While one screen fails to focus, millions are shown on another. It was then that panic struck. Because terror is characterized by silence instead of noises. Phones stop ringing, meetings lengthen, and words are chosen with care. At the top of the table, Kathy Engelberg listened to updates that were impossible to understand because of spreadsheets. Instead of arguing, numbers accuse. It was also a simple charge. The audience has evolved. Then came the commentary, not official statements or press releases, but conversations, the re-emergence of previous remarks, tone analysis, and the incessant inclusion of one voice in the conversation. Context is crucial to Gino Orama. Time is more crucial. Remarks that previously appeared to be standard competitive rhetoric suddenly had a different meaning in light of the new situation. It was because time had changed, not because they were new. Fans, occasionally unjustly, connected dots loudly. The narrative grew rigid. They didn't see her. They didn't value her. They thought they could wait. In this sense, stories become symbols. Additionally, symbols could be detrimental when bargaining power. Inside the league, reports state that a scramble began.
After the 5 years, right? Let's see how well y'all do in the 5 years. Then you will have something to fall back on. But yeah, and they were saying the average could be $1 million across the organization, across the league, right? If everything works out perfectly with the 5% extra on top. So, hey, man, I don't know. It seems pretty good to me. Now, they did have some weird things in this improvement here. A few of them would be elimination of that grass testing, all right? That smoke is what we call it down here in Georgia. The smoke, okay? Now, it's crazy you would eliminate the testing, but then you would add new treatment programs for the grass or alcohol abuse. Like, what? Talk about contradicting yourself. I mean, I guess, man. But shorter disqualification periods under anti-drug program. Interesting, man. Complimentary all-star tickets for all players. Now, I thought all players get this anyway, so I don't know. Yeah, okay. And then free WNBA league pass. Man, that's tough. That is tough, man. They can't even watch. They watching like us. That's crazy work.
Calls are placed and re-evaluations are ordered. What if we return to the earlier model? Someone asked. Why don't we sweeten it? Another speaker advised a reset. Not in the open. Be quiet. Be quiet. Because the moment betrayed the goal. It is viewed as a request by fans. It is interpreted by gamers as panic. The audience was also informed that the machine had misinterpreted the room. This is when the slap occurred. Not from a proclamation, not from a tweet, and not from the numbers. Every appearance made outside of the league system served to highlight the discrepancy. Every NBC clip widened the gap, and every low-key, low-attendance weekend game made it impossible to hide the difference. Insiders say that after the calls, drafts, and what-if scenarios, the most painful realization was found. If she had wanted the old arrangement, it would have happened sooner. Now it was too late.
And they're actually not the only place that is preparing for it. Unrivaled is also a place that is preparing for a strike, and we've heard it from other players. Like we've heard Natasha Cloud say, if there's a strike or there's a lockout in the WNBA, everybody can go and play in Unrivaled. Which brings me to my last point on Unrivaled.
You know, I know a lot of people are kind of like hating about being a part of Unrivaled and also trying to negotiate the WNBA, but it's like, I want two things to both be successful. And literally that's how I'm looking at it. Like, I'm looking at this from a pure business standpoint and how things can be great for everyone. I think that Unrivaled, the only thing that Unrivaled is showing is positive. When you show players on social media or in games or wherever the case may be, people watch.
Right.
So we can't not have that for our summer season in the WNBA.
And this is where a lot of people from the beginning have been calling it a conflict of interest, because it clearly is. And I'm not saying that Breanna Stewart has bad intentions. I don't actually think that she does. But she's saying here, I want two things to both be successful. She cannot come out here and say that she cares about the WNBA more than she cares about Unrivaled, or she cares about Unrivaled more than she does the WNBA. She wants both of them to be successful. It's kind of impossible at this point, because you have the WNBA who has, from the beginning,
Because you do not disclose leverage. It's something that you display. And she was demonstrating it every time she spoke in front of a national audience that favored her above the logo. The league won a negotiation in public. They lost the room. The documents demonstrate that grim truth. A slower-paced method dealing with a participant who outpaced the process. Not malicious, not bad faith. And in these circumstances, even respectable voices are muffled. Hierarchies that are older are unstable. Not because someone declared war, but because the crowd's choice feels like a challenge to the status quo. Toward the end of that week, insiders kept using the same word,